Hey folks, to summarize most of this wild card weekend, I'm gonna say it had the most boring. It's been defensive. Like people are not the biggest fan of defensively orchestrated games to control most of the offense and get teams like the Baltimore Ravens to teams like the Houston Texans that over most of the year, even though they had a 9-game winning streak over the course of the regular season, it's been against like tougher components. Like most of their games they had were freaking still 3 to 5 point deficit games that were incredibly competitive but didn't show that Houston were dominant. Like there were close call games, just not to show the biggest strengths, and it's shown. Even though what I saw from Deshaun Watson were the same thing I saw from uh my goodness, what I saw from Lamar Jackson. Not that much consistency. They had to rely on the run to get away from the defense. Their defense slowed them from what made their strength. I didn't see a lot from uh, Lamar Miller. I did not. It's been it was even rough to see DeAndre Hopkins off short pass plays. Uh, just get absolutely mauled over. The Texans lost by 2 touchdowns, 21. And I people knew from the jump the Texans weren't prepared, and just they weren't going to be that reliant because they understand like Watson isn't the most reliable quarterback. They had too many turnovers, not that many as Baltimore that they had off snaps. They lost the ball. It was obviously Ingram's. It was a defensive domination going into the Chargers game. Same thing as the Colts, even though the Colts defense in the early parts of the season were better than their offense. And then, Andrew Luck had to shoot it up off 3 touchdown passes. Watson did have one all right drive coming into the second half, but he was 29 for 49. If you can do the math, he got to 35, but you only got 20 completions out of 40 attempts. You got a pick and a touchdown. You're the leading rusher because the O line couldn't do anything. You see the tackles. If you saw how they can block, it was really rough. Oh my goodness, it was like watching JV all over again. In my opinion, it was a rough game for the Texans, and it came off to Deshaun Watson running more than Alfred Blue and Lamar Miller combined, off 76-yard rushes. Oh my goodness, it was Kiki Conte that got more than DeAndre Hopkins that only had like six only 5 completions and targeted like 5 times. So this was a rough performance for DeAndre Hopkins, even though he was still the primary targeted. He was like targeted the most times. Brandon Dunn, pass deflections off J.J. Watt. So the defense did their stuff. They weren't that reliant in their backfield, even though they had Tyrann Mathieu, McKinney, Zach Cunningham. Jonathan Joseph is also a great player, but they weren't showing that much. They just weren't, and it was rough. There was only one off Brandon Dunn. That was only one turnover that Andrew Luck had over this entire playoff game. It was rough watching because in the second half they already led by like 14, I think, or it was already a 21 the first half. They scored a late touchdown of an all right drive by Deshaun Watson. That was it for the 4 o'clock game. The first half of wild card games were like 1 to 8 o'clock. I mean 4 to 8 something. So it was all right. T.Y. Hilton did his stuff. He had some great deep plays, even though he had the same statistical error. He had 85. Nobody got over 100 yards off receptions. It was mainly Eric Ebron that had a few drop passes. Chester Rogers. Some guys I did not even see, like DeAndre. I didn't even know Inman was even on the Colts since like week 5. So, oh my goodness, this was just a rough game to watch, especially for Kenny Moore. And I think he was doing that was guarding Hopkins that got a pick and also got 2 pass deflections. So I thought this was a pretty defensively orchestrated game for the Colts, and they'll go off to face off against the Chiefs in the divisional round of the playoffs, and whoever wins that, and obviously they'll be on the road for the Chiefs thanks to the bye week. They'll be facing whoever wins that game will go off to the AFC Championship. All I can say about the Colts, it's going to be a rough game. I understand going in, the Chiefs are already playoff. They're already like playoff experience for the past few years, but they've been rough in trying to get a playoff win. So this is time for Pat Mahomes to prove themselves. With the loss of Kareem Hunt, they still have some reliable weapons. I expect the Colts defense, to be a bit rougher than the Chiefs defense, because the Chiefs defense does not prove that they have a chance if the offense can bite more, they can chew more, they can fucking bite. This that was terrible. That was terrible, but I can just tell you that it's going to be a rough night for the Chiefs defense. They have not shown it over the regular season, and obviously in the postseason, it's going to be a lot more difficult because if it shows, your defense needs to do a lot more than your offense because it's not the regular season anymore. The final game of Saturday was, of course, the Cowboys versus Seahawks. And I had to rewatch this game via highlights, and then I had to find. Then my friend that had the game on the Game Pass, he got me to watch it, so we were able to watch the two-time teams, and it took Dak, Zeke, Amari Cooper, Cole Beasley. I don't think he got a catch. He got like 2 catches. Tony Romo on commentary, so that specifically means he won a playoff game because he was called. I'm sorry, I'm just immature. This was a pretty alright game. This was the highest. This is one of the highest scoring games coming out of this. This was the highest scoring game in the wild card round of the playoffs. With 22-24, the Cowboys will go off to the second round. And oh my god. I had to say, Russell Wilson did do above average. He got some great pass plays out there to Golden Tate. No, shoot, that's the Cowboys. No, that's the Eagles. I'm dumb. I'm done. I'm just dumb. Rashad Penny has some good rushing plays. Also, Russell Wilson didn't get to escape out the pocket that he usually does. He's usually not a victim when it comes out the pocket because he can scramble. He's one of the better running quarterbacks that can pass. So obviously, this would be a pretty well done orchestrated game for the Redskins. Tyler Lockett had a tremendous game. I thought he had the best catches in the game. He was only targeted like 6 times, but he got some catches out there. So did Ed Dickerson, Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin had an underwhelming game as well. Chris Carlson, Jesus. KJ Wright had that big ass pick. KJ Wright played well, and Shaquille Griffin got a great. I keep enunciating their names wrong because they're twins. But it was an alright game. Nobody showed up specifically on defense because it was mainly Cowboys having some great plays. I'm about to go over the stats right now because Dak Prescott, because people think he's inconsistent, he did go 22 for 33. It was a rough percentage game because he has to always target Zeke or just go for anybody he thinks is open. Ezekiel Elliott was the leading rusher. He did do well with 37 yards with only one rushing touchdown. Dak needs to relax off his passing. I don't know what they got to do, but they got to be more experimental. I might expect them to be like the Ravens. See what the Ravens did. They really got destroyed off the Chargers. Amari Cooper killed it. Ezekiel Elliott was also another passing option. Cole Beasley had 3 catches like I expected. And Michael Gallup had some got some good third downs. He also got a touchdown to ice up the games. The Cowboys will advance. Seahawks will be going home. At least they made the postseason, so it ain't like last year where you guys lost against the Cardinals. But I thought the same thing was going to happen. So that's something. At least you guys got a 10-6 record. And this is coming off you guys losing most of your team, Legion of Boom. If we go right into history, Richard Sherman, most of your defensive players are retired nor injury prone. And Michael Bennett is in the Eagles. Freaking Richard Sherman's on the 49ers and they had a shitty record. And now you guys are in a 10-6 and still were the second best in your division and snagged wild card because the rest of the NFC was so mediocre and had so many injuries. If it wasn't for the injuries, the Falcons would have just been second in their division and just went to wild cards because it was a poor NFC. It was poor football to watch for most of the NFC games, in my opinion. It was just rough watching. We go to the Sunday night installment games on wild card, and I have to say, yeah, it was the Baltimore Ravens had a rough first half. They had nowhere to go. It was loose balls all over the place. I don't know how many forced fumbles the Chargers got, but it was a lot. A lot of fumbles. A lot of fumbles. A lot of drop turnovers. There was some poor penalties off this game. I think these were the worst calls coming in most of the games. Philip Rivers did go for a nice 22 and 32. He got no touchdown passes, but if you can rack up a yardage, get some completions, get your team in good field position, your team is going to make it. Your team is going to be successful. You don't need to score touchdowns, especially against a defensive team like this. So, good on the Chargers for winning on a 23 and 17. Melvin Gordon only dropped 40 yards in this entire game because it mainly been passed to Mike Williams and Keenan Allen to keep the teams in good yard and field position. Antonio Gates also got some good, even a one-handed catch in one play. It was crazy watching. There was also an Eric Weddle injury. There was a bunch of injuries off the defensive team for the Ravens. So obviously we got a forced fumble of Virgil Green and Melvin Ingram. Noasa. I don't see anything on Joey Bosa. It was just rough. Joey Bosa did get a sack though. And also Justin Jones. I have never seen a team. I've never seen. And people thought that Lamar Jackson, he was doing an all right job. Imagine just put a guy that barely even played, and he was the guy, and Lamar Jackson was the reason why the team was in playoff contention, where the Ravens were even rotating with Joe Flacco and RG3 weren't even above 500. So it's obvious that they were having confidence off their rookie quarterback that kind of carried this team over to the wild card. So good on the Ravens. You came off missing the playoffs for the past like 4 seasons, I think. To coming back strong, leading your division, upsetting the Browns. It's just tremendous year for the Ravens, and you guys haven't led your division in years. So that's something to be proud of. In some occasions, the Ravens, I don't know what they're gonna do next year. Terrell Suggs ain't getting any younger. He's old as shit now. Mosley was all right. C.J. Mosley was pretty good. I think he got an interception. Lamar Jackson, he went 14 for 29. You can see the damage that the Chargers sent. With only 2 touchdown passes he had in the game to carry it out in the second half. The targets were pretty good. 2 touchdown passes over to Michael Beasley. One later in the fourth, and one up for decision. There was even a fumble that was stripped away and picked up by the Ravens. They thought it was actually dropped at the 1, so they were going to redo the decision and reverse the clock. I thought there was a lot of bad calls into this game. Somehow Kenneth Dixon was the receiving leader. Lamar Jackson was the same thing. Told you, the same thing as how it was in the first game of the wild card. Like with Deshaun Watson. We're just carrying the team off rushing plays off third and longs because he can't find any targets. And Michael Crabtree's just a red zone target now. He's not how he was as a 49er. So that was just a rough thing to see. Willie Snead, Michael Crabtree had a great game. I know some of these guys will be free agents. I think it's the best part for the Ravens to build up in the draft. There's not a lot of just think out the rentals alone. Like I don't know how long the Eagles are gonna get on Golden Tate and a lot of other players that might not last long with some of their teams. I think they can build up off receivers. I think their offensive line needs work and their secondary, because as I've seen here, their secondary hasn't been that impressive as much as Jimmy Smith and I like Marlon Humphreys and Eric Weddle and C.J. Mosley that played pretty well. Just, my opinion, just see if you can get some younger aspects. Some younger prospects for the future ahead, because they've been a bit exposed in this game. And as I heard from other sources and other YouTubers and podcasts and stuff like that, how long is it going to take? The Chargers already exposed them offensively. Well, how long is it going to take for other teams, especially the divisional rivals, to just shut them down? Especially how experimental the Ravens got it or later in the season, and before I continue, a lot of inconsistent field goals over the course of this game. A lot of inconsistent field goals. I didn't even know from the jump Justin Tucker was that inconsistent. Even how clutch you know him in the regular season, you haven't seen Justin Tucker in the postseason, so this is just rough. Same thing with the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears game. Their kicker missed fucking 4 straight in the last game against the Vikings. Eagles that are 9-7, they win 16-15. That really, it was a lot of incomplete passes out of bounds, a lot of bad flags everywhere. Physical game. It was a physical game. Both teams obviously want to get themselves in the playoffs. Somehow, with a better record, you guys still didn't hold on to a freaking lead. So, yeah. Eagles will be in the divisional round. Nick Foles was pretty good, even though he went 25 for 40. Pretty good statistically, except the interceptions. Only went 266. Golden Tate had some good catches. Especially Zach Ertz and Alshon Jeffrey, some deep plays. Darren Sproles, the leading rusher, only had 21 yards, even though he had 13 carries. You can see how bad the Bears are. They're really scary up the run. So I was shocked that they were still trying to utilize Smallwood. So there was a good touchdown pass of Golden Tate and Dallas Goddard that had a good touchdown catch. These guys have good footwork, so the Eagles did carry it up, winning the last 4 or 5. So there's a reason why they're threatening. So I wouldn't underestimate the Eagles because they're still put as the underdogs, even though they're Super Bowl champions coming out of 2018. That's all I can tell you, man. That's all I can tell you. I didn't expect them to win this game. I didn't expect them to. I really thought the Bears got in the bag and coming in the second half, and they were just going to win like 24-16 and have the Eagles score late into the game. And Mitchell Trubisky also played pretty well, even though he sparked no turnovers, only got like 1 touchdown pass, even though he got like 300 yards. Of course, both players wouldn't run well because these teams are good up stopping the run, only 35 yards off Jordan Howard. But the person to talk about today was not Taylor Gabriel, not Allen Robinson, even though he pulled up a clinic. I thought Tyreek Cohen had some good plays. Highlighted the play, he got the team in a good field position. And it doesn't even matter if you got like only 50 yards in a big game. If you're able to make good plays and keep your team alive, you're a threat. You're a threat. Tyreek Cohen is a threat. I thought Taylor Gabriel had a few good catches, even though he went only 4 of 9 last night. So that was interesting. Other teams that did well, I thought the defense was pretty good. I thought the Bears defense was obviously they came out better than the Eagles defense, and it was good field position by Tyreek Cohen. It was good It was a good catch off Allen Robinson from Mitchell Trubisky to get him close for good field position. Then off the freaking timeout that Doug Patterson called, and he made that field goal even though the timeout was perfectly timed. You still could have made it. Eagles are not notable for stopping field goals. And this guy's already inconsistent, missing multitudes of field goals coming into the regular season. So obviously, if I were you, if I had no confidence in my kicker that I should have confidence in my kicker, I would have gone for it and gone for a deep pass and give it to Jeffrey or Cohen or Gabriel, even though we got 2 short fuckers on our team. any way Cody Parkey didn't miss the field goal, and the Eagles will proceed into the wild card. I mean, to the divisional round. I didn't want this to happen. I really didn't. So, my predictions that you'll see from the title, I'm stupid. And second of all, I'm stupid. Because this is just gonna suck for me. I hate being wrong. I really hate being wrong. That's the worst thing about football. Oh my god. So, this will be your schedule for next week on the 12th. It'll be the Colts and Chiefs, Cowboys and Rams, Chargers and Patriots, and Eagles and Saints. Whoever wins goes to their respective conference championship game. Anything could happen in the Super Bowl, even though the Patriots made it multiple times. There have been times where they could have obviously lost, like they could have lost to the Jaguars last year. And we could have had a fun game against two good teams with the Jaguars and Eagles. Anything could happen, so I'm just having my options pulled up because I'm reviewing Russell Kingdom. And anything else, I need something to make me feel better after losing my predictions. Thanks for watching.